Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to go to my review of SummerSlam 2000. Starting off the evening, we're going to go to our first match of the night. It is Right to Censor versus Too Cool. I thought it was an okay opening matchup for SummerSlam 2000. Back and forth matchup between both teams with Too Cool keeping the pace of the match. Stevie Richards, though, ends up hitting a super kick, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Right to Censor. Hats off to Right to Censor for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Road Dogg versus X-Pac. Again, I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between both Road Dogg and X-Pac. X-Pac ends up hitting a spinning heel kick on the Road Dogg, as well as a Bronco Buster. Road Dogg then gets up, hits a leg drop on X-Pac, but X-Pac hits his signature X-Factor on the Road Dogg, pinning him for the 3, and your winner of the match is the Road Dogg. Hats off to the Road Dogg for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is a mixed tag team matchup for the Intercontinental Championship. It is Eddie Guerrero and Chyna versus Val Venis and Trish Stratus. I thought it was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams with Eddie and Chyna keeping the pace of the match. Chyna hits a devastating DDT. Eddie then hits a springboard hurricanrana on Val. Chyna then hits a press slam on Trish Stratus, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new WWE Intercontinental Champion is Chyna. Hats off to Chyna for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Taz versus Jerry Lawler. I thought this was a relatively good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both Taz and Lawler, with Lawler keeping the pace of the match. Lawler hits a signature pile driver on Taz, but Taz gets up quickly, applies his Coquina Clutch on Lawler. Jim Ross gets involved in the match, ends up hitting Taz with a glass jar. Lawler capitalizes on this, goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Jerry the King Lawler. Hats off to Jerry Lawler for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the WWE Hardcore Championship. It is Shane McMahon versus Steve Blackman. I thought this was a great matchup. Back and forth matchup between both McMahon and Blackman, with Blackman keeping the pace of the match. Test and Albert make their way down to the ring. They end up attacking Blackman. Test then hits a devastating elbow drop on Steve Blackman. Shane then climbs the stage structure. Steve Blackman then goes after him with a kendo stick. He ends up hitting Shane off the stage structure, and then Shane falls down from the stage structure. And then Steve Blackman goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and at that time, new WWE Hardcore Champion is Steve Blackman. Hats off to Steve Blackman for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is a 2 out of 3 falls matchup. It is Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit. I thought this was a great match. Back and forth matchup between both Jericho and Benoit. Jericho and Benoit both exchange in the middle of the ring. Jericho then goes for a lionsault, but is met with knees. Benoit then applies a crossface on Jericho. Jericho taps out, and your winner of the first fall is Chris Benoit. After that, Benoit is pretty much keeping the pace of the match. Jericho then applies a Walls of Jericho, and then Jericho ends up getting the second fall in the match. Jericho then hits a hurricanrana off the top rope on Chris Benoit. It looked absolutely devastating. Jericho then hits a spinning heel kick on Benoit. Jericho then hits a lionsault on Benoit in the middle of the ring, but Benoit hits a roll-up using the ropes. Referee didn't see it. Pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Chris Benoit. Hats off to Chris Benoit for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the WWE Tag Team Championships. It is a TLC matchup. It is Edge and Christian versus the Dudley Boys versus the Hardys. I thought this was a great matchup as well. Back and forth matchup with all teams involved. Edge and Christian were keeping the pace throughout the match. Dudley then hits the Dudleys hit a 3D on Christian through the table in the middle of the ring. Dudley's then stacking tables on the outside. Matt Hardy then hits a twist of fate on Edge in the middle of the ring. Jeff then goes for a swanton off the ladder, but missed Bubba ringside. Bubba then climbs the ladder. Edge and Christian then throw Bubba off the ladder to the table structure that's outside the ring. Lita makes her way down to the ring. She ends up throwing Edge and Christian off the ladder. Matt then goes for the championship, but Devon Dudley throws Matt off the ladder to a table on the outside. Edge then hits a devastating spear on Lita. Edge and Christian then both climb the ladder. retrieved the championships, and your winners of the match, and at that time still WWE Tag Team Champions, are Edge and Christian. Hats off to Edge and Christian for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Kat versus Terry. I thought it was an okay matchup at best. Back and forth matchup between both Kat and Terry, with Kat keeping the pace of the match. And your winner of the match is Kat. Hats off to Kat for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Kane versus The Undertaker. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both Kane and The Undertaker, with Kane keeping the pace of the match. Undertaker then hits Kane with a chair shot. Taker then is ripping the mask off of Kane, and the match ends up ending in a no contest. All in all, it was a decent match. I wish we got a clear-cut winner in this matchup and not go to a no contest. And honestly, I think this was the first time that Kane was technically unmasked, which was kind of cool. But all in all, it was a really solid matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of SummerSlam 2000. It is The Rock, Kurt Angle, and Triple H for the WWE Championship. I thought this was a relatively good matchup. Kurt Angle and Triple H end up starting the match. Triple H ends up hitting a devastating pedigree on Angle on the announce table. The Rock makes his way down to the ring. He's pretty much trying to keep the pace of the match. Angle is shown getting carted off due to injury. Stephanie McMahon is here, makes her way down to the ring. Stephanie then goes to hit Rock with the championship belt, missed, and end up hitting Triple H. Triple H then hit Rock with a sledgehammer. Kurt Angle returns to the match. Triple H then hits a pedigree on The Rock. Angle then hits Triple H with a sledgehammer, and The Rock ends up hitting the People's Elbow, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and at that time still WWE Champion, is The Rock. A couple of things I'm going to say about SummerSlam 2000 before I get out of here. Number one, this was a fantastic SummerSlam, in my honest opinion. There was a lot of good matches on this card, and some matches I could have done without. Right to Censor versus Too Cool to open SummerSlam, I could have definitely done without. Wasn't a big fan of Right to Censor. Too Cool was it was a decent tag team. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a solid tag team. I think Rikishi was probably the best wrestler on that team, to be honest with you. Road Dogg versus X-Pac, again, I could have done without it. The mixed tag team match with Eddie and Chyna versus Val Venis and Trish Stratus, a really good matchup, especially with the Intercontinental Championship being on the line in that match. Fantastic. Shane McMahon versus Steve Blackman for the Hardcore Championship. Fantastic match. Shane falling off that stage structure was absolutely insane. Jericho versus Benoit, the 2 out of 3 falls match. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And obviously, of course, the TLC match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. Both Edge, Christian, Dudley Boys, and the Hardys. Every time those guys are in the ring together, man, it's an absolutely fantastic matchup. And that match definitely delivered. And obviously the main event being Kurt Angle, Triple H, and The Rock in a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. Absolutely fantastic matchup. If I had to get a rating for SummerSlam 2000 from a 1 out of 10, I'm going to give it a solid 8, man. I think SummerSlam 2000 was a really good event. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say it was the best SummerSlam of all time, but it by far was definitely not the worst. There's a lot of good matches on here, and like I said, some matches I could have done without. Kat and Terry was another match I definitely could have done without. Don't know why that was booked. Taz and Jerry Lawler, it was a decent matchup. It was pretty much based off a storyline that Taz ended up attacking Jerry Lawler, and I guess Jerry Lawler kind of got even to challenge Taz to kind of beat Taz in that matchup for Jim Ross. But all in all, SummerSlam 2000, I'm going to have to give it a solid 8 at best. But this is my review of SummerSlam 2000. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.